will be uploading a video. And in today's video, this is kind of like an add-on to yesterday's video about Candyman. And this is like the real life Candyman murder. So, let's get into it. So, the real life event that helped inspire Candyman is the death of Ruth Mccoy. So, this happened April 22nd, 1987. At around 8:45, Ruthie places a call to 911 that someone was trying to break into her apartment through the bathroom mirror cabinet. Apparently, she had made 2 other calls that week. Neighbors report hearing her screaming, and 2 of her neighbors also called 911 around the same time. I believe they said like 8:02 and 8:04 because they were hearing screaming and loud commotion coming from her apartment. No police or anyone came to her aid, which I'm gonna get deeper into it, but no police come to her aid is like such a textbook story for someone living in an inner city project apartment, which Ruthie Mccoy was. She was later found dead in her apartment in a pool of blood. This was 2 days later, and she was indeed shot by 2 young men who indeed did enter her apartment through the bathroom mirror. Because one of the things is the 911 call. Ruthie is trying to explain that like people are coming through her bathroom mirror, but it sounds crazy. It sounds like an urban legend, of course. In addition, Ruthie was known to have schizophrenia, and her neighbors reported her talking to herself openly or talking when no one was there, which I guess that is everybody's lackluster excuse for not helping and not coming to her aid. Investigative reporters from the Chicago Reader, which we're going to get into the Chicago Reader article, discovered that like bathroom cabinet break-ins were a thing in the Abbott Homes apartments where Ruthie lived. These apartments had bathroom cabinets installed back to back with a 2-foot pipe running between the apartments. So like if this is one apartment and this is another apartment, their bathrooms would literally be like this. Well, like this, because there's a pipe in between, but the cabinets are like this. So theoretically, if this apartment is abandoned and no one is checking on the abandoned apartment, someone could come, boot out this cabinet, push through this cabinet, and beat into someone else's apartment. Hence how this happened. The cabinets were loosely attached to the wall with 6 flimsy nails, and that was to make it easy for the repairman to repair things. But in addition, different criminals and gang members had discovered like the little cabinet breakdown a little over a year before Ruthie's death, and they had made apartment break-ins a thing. So they would go to apartments that they knew were built the same way. Another thing, if you've never experienced like project apartment living, a lot of like project apartments exact same building, like over and over again. So if you know that this building has this one flaw, you can find other project apartments with that same flaw and exploit it. This was a known thing, and some residents were even putting furniture in front of their bathroom doors at night as a protection. So let's get into the Chicago Reader article. This article is titled They Came In Through the Bathroom Mirror, a Murder in the Projects. And this was written by Steve Bulgaria, September 3rd in 1987. So Mccoy, 52, went through much of her life afraid. She was hounded by paranoia. Her fears weren't soothed by her dwelling place. The last 4 years, a high-rise building in a near Southside Chicago housing apartment known as ABLA, where the van dropped her off this Wednesday afternoon, April 22nd. She lived in one of the 15-story brown, Y-shaped towers named the Grace Abbott Apartment. Homes, the dangerous buildings in ABLA. A claustrophobe in a closet might be more at ease than a paranoid like Mccoy in the Abbott high-rise. The building's dark features, malfunctioning elevators, pitch-black stairwells, and cocaine and PCP addicts on every floor. Fiends really are lurking in the shadows here. In these towers, you're crazy if you're not always looking over your shoulder. Mccoy lived at the end of a corridor on the 11th floor in the building. At 8:45 this April evening, Chicago police got a 911 call from Mccoy. I'm a resident at this apartment building, and some people next door are totally tearing this thing down, you know. The frantic voice began. What are they doing, ma'am? Said the dispatcher. McCoy's response is unintelligible on tape, but apparently the dispatcher caught her gist. They want to break in, he said. Yes, they throwed the cabinet down. And the dispatcher says, from where? And then McCoy responds, I'm in the project, I'm on the other side. You can reach my bathroom. They want to come in through the bathrooms. All right, ma'am, what's the address, says the dispatcher. McCoy then gives him the address, but warns that the elevator is not working. The dispatcher then asks her for her name, and McCoy tells him her name, Ruth McCoy. The dispatcher then says, all right, I'll send the police. What I don't sometimes like is she was an older lady. She was 52. This was the 80s, and she was in Chicago. It seems like from reading this transcript, she probably had a strong Southern accent. And one of the things that irks my soul is when people act like they can't understand what someone is saying because someone has an accent. And the whole dispatcher call, they constantly say it was unintelligible because she had a Southern accent. Like, don't blow me right now, literally. So, the dispatcher wasn't certain what McCoy had been trying to report. What could she have meant by they throw the cabinet down and they want to come through the bathroom? I think she was clearly saying what she meant, like they're breaking the cabinets down. And she even says, like, I'm on the other side. And my bathroom, like from the other side. They can reach my bathroom. It sounds like they're tearing the cabinet down. I really don't know what was so difficult about that to understand. But, so, nonetheless, he closed the phone call in order to send a B car on its way. He assigned a district guard to answer a disturbance with a neighbor complaint. He did not report it as a break-in, even though previously in the transcript, he gets that they're trying to break in. He even asks, they want to break in? And Ruth responds, yes. They throw the cabinet down. And when he says, from where, she starts to explain the other side. So, nonetheless, he reports it as a disturbance with a neighbor and not as a break-in attempt. So, because of that, the police do not rush to the scene. And like realistically, they weren't going to rush to the scene anyways, because this is a housing project and she's on the 11th floor and the elevator doesn't work. So, the police arrive at McCoy's door at 9:02. I think earlier I said that the neighbors called at 9:02. It had to have been before 9:02. But the police arrive at McCoy's door at 9:02. Oh, no. Then another 911 call came in. This was from a woman who said she had been walking through the hallway and heard gunshots from Ruth's apartment. And then at 9:04, another neighbor called about hearing gunshots and hollering and screaming. From there, 2 more police head to the scene. 4 officers arrive at the scene and at McCoy's door about 10 minutes after 9. They pound on the door, but McCoy doesn't respond. No answer. They ask the dispatcher to call McCoy on her phone. We think somebody may be in there holding somebody. An officer told the dispatcher over the radio. The officers listened to the phone ring and ring. There were 2 more officers downstairs, and they drove over to the project office a block down and got a key to 1109, but the key didn't fit McCoy's lock. So this left the officers wondering what to do. Should they just break into the apartment? And when they tried to talk to the neighbors didn't help. Nobody answered from across the hall. And the next door apartment was a vacant apartment. So, other neighbors on the floor said that, like, she was just an elderly lady that lived in that apartment and that she usually always answers her door. One of the officers told the dispatcher with a hesitant voice, and there's no answer. So I don't know if maybe she answered to the wrong person or what, you know. The officers contacted the project office again, but the janitor there said he had no other key for 1109. And so, at 9:48 p.m., the police left McCoy's building and the projects. You know, the following evening, the police get another call from Deborah Lastly. She was one of the neighbors of McCoy, and she says that McCoy normally stopped at her apartment on her way out of the building every morning. But she didn't, and she was worried. Because she hadn't seen McCoy's since the night before. More officers come. I'm kind of paraphrasing and kind of reading this article, y'all. My bad. More officers come, and they knock on Ruth's door again. No answer. The officers thought that they should break the door down. But apparently security guards next day, um, Lastly, which is the neighbor to Ruth, tells like the project building about her concerns. And at about 1 p.m., um, a carpenter drilled through the locks and they found Ruth laying in her bedroom on the side of her bed in a pool full of blood, with her hand over her chest and one shoe on and one shoe off. Things such as papers, magazines, and coins were strewn around her on the floor. And when police later turned Mccoy slightly, the faint smell of rotting flesh rose through the apartment, confirming basically that yes, she had been killed more than a day ago. She had been shot 4 times with a medium caliber gun. And when the medical examiner performed the autopsy, they concluded that one bullet passed through her left shoulder, another through her left thigh, and the third through her abdomen, piercing her liver and then exiting through the left side of her abdomen. The fourth and fatal bullet passed through her right upper arm, then entered her chest and severed her pulmonary vein. The coroner listed her cause of death as internal bleeding. Mccoy probably didn't die immediately, the coroner says, but because of the injury to the pulmonary vein, he doubted that she lasted long. She probably wouldn't have survived even if she would have been taken to a hospital quickly, he says. She was pronounced dead at Cook County Hospital at 4:35 p.m. Friday, April 24th. Yeah. So basically, there was a whole nother thing about Project Killings just not making it on the news, and like this wasn't openly and publicly publicized because so many people were getting like their bathroom cabinets broken into and murdered or robbed in their own apartment because of this, and because it's not getting like media attention or reported or even shown on the news. Dispatchers can't put 2 and 2 together, and it sounds crazy for a woman to call and say people are entering her apartment quite literally through the bathroom mirror. But yeah, no. And then Ruth having mental health challenges was just an added layer of people not believing her. So with that being said, that is all I have for this video today, y'all. This is a very interesting story. Like, I didn't know so much of the Candyman folklore is based in like real heinous things that happen to real people. You know, like, I don't know. It's more than just like an urban legend, which all ghost stories are, all urban legends are. But this one just felt like really, really dirty. I don't know. Like the lynching story, the story from the video from yesterday, that really happened. That was a real true story. The story from today and this really happened. This was a real true story. I guess it's the things to build nightmares out of. So, yeah, y'all. A little true crime for today. And with that being said, don't forget to